Hey YouTube, it's Charlie from Reader Turned Writer, and today I am doing a book review of Atomic Habits by James Clear. If you're new here, welcome, and if not, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here on my bookish channel. I love all things writing, reading, and books. So talking about Atomic Habits, this is one of my absolute favorite self-help books. It has honestly been life-changing for me. It was written based off of both James Clear's life experiences and just what he learned from other people's research into habits. And it's not really about the research, it's more about how the research can be applied to your life to change the habits, the things that you want to change, which is really useful. The book is very accessible. James Clear is very much a storyteller. He tells great anecdotes that draw the reader's interest in. The information he presents is also really easy to understand. You don't need to, it's not academic at all, even though some of it is based off of research. It's not like a college textbook or anything. It's very accessible, very easy to understand. And my favorite part of the book is just how immediately applicable it is to your life. He gives so many things throughout the book to help you to apply the information that he is sharing to your life so that you can go and leave his book and actually do the changes that you want to make, which I think is so awesome. He has the book organized in a way that is really easy to follow and to go back and review if you want to review later, because that is something that I often want to do with this book. I've actually read it multiple times as well and gotten new information out of it every single time I've read it and felt like it was important information to make changes to my life. So I thought that was awesome. It's not just a surface level book. You can go back more than once and get good information out of it. He starts off the book focusing on like the foundation of habits, things like your identity and how you see yourself. And then he goes more into the nitty-gritties of like what makes up a habit, like why we do the habits that we do and how you can use those elements to help change the actions that you're taking every single day. He also has examples in each section, both from his own life and just other examples of people who are doing these things, what it might actually look like with certain habits and how they actually are applying the principles to change actions. And at the end of each section, he gives like kind of a synopsis. It's pretty normal in a self-help book, a synopsis of like the main points that you should be taking away from this. And that's really useful for review, I think. For me, the beginning of the book is the most helpful, and the last few sections are just kind of not as helpful. They felt more like, oh, he needed a bigger word count, so he might have taken some of his blog posts or those same topics maybe and just kind of stuck them on at the end, and I didn't like them as much, but the beginning was so useful that it didn't even matter that the ending wasn't. To finish off my review, I just wanted to do kind of a recap of some of the main principles that he discusses in the book that I found really useful. And if you find any of these useful, then you can go check out the book and see what more that he says about them. And I'm going to put the book down for this section because holding a book, meh. The first one is the aggregation of marginal gains, which is like a really fancy way of saying small things add up to big changes. He goes deeper into why in the book, but just basically the more consistent something is, the more likely it is to have a big outcome, and smaller changes are much easier to be consistent with, and so you're just much more likely to actually make a change if you do it slowly with small changes. And it's also just something like he talks about he gives different examples where small things add up to more, like, you know, like almost like synergy, where it's the small things can create change that you wouldn't expect because they're small, but added all together, they make a big difference. And then he talks about the plateau of latent potential. And this one is really interesting. It's just simply the fact that we don't usually see the consequences of our actions right away. And so this means like the latent potential part just means that we have a lot of potential that we're not actually using. And what he gives for an example here to make it more concrete is like an ice cube. So at 27 degrees or even 31 degrees, an ice cube's not going to melt, but as soon as it hits 32 degrees, it's going to start melting. But if an ice cube is in a room that's 30 degrees and it starts going up by 1 degree, it's warming up, you know, it starts warming up, you're not going to see results for 12 degrees. But that doesn't mean that degree 27 wasn't needed. You have to have degree 27, even though you can't see the effects of it yet. If it never got to 27 degrees, it would never get to 32 degrees, and then the ice cube would never melt. But because we don't see it melting, we often get discouraged at 27, 28, even 31 degrees, and then we quit because we're not seeing any results yet. But we just need to keep doing, inching forward small by degrees. And then we'll see our potential that was latent when we were making the actions. He explains it better than I do. One of the things he says in the book that I love is forget goals, focus on systems. And if you want to check out one of my goals videos, you can see that I am trying to do that. I still have goals, I still have like the big picture that I'm working to, but I'm really trying to focus on my systems and habits, because goals are great in theory, but unless you have good systems and habits to reach them, you're just not going to do it. And that's what this book is all about. It's all about teaching you how to create habits and systems that will get you to your goals. One of the things that I love that he says under this section is, if you're failing to reach your habits, the problem is not you. The problem is with your system. I love that. So often we feel like we have like a fixed mindset about ourselves and how we can change, like, oh, well, I've tried losing weight so many times, I just can't do that. I just have a sweet tooth. I just have this. I'm just made that way. But it's not you. You're not the problem. You're not wrong. Something is not wrong with you, you're just using the wrong system. So you just need to find a better system, and then you'll be able to reach that goal better. I really love that idea. Creating small habits to create great systems and environments will propel you towards your goals, and in 5 years or 10 years or however long years, you'll look back at your life and be able to see that you were able to become the kind of person that you wanted to be because you made small habits that created the right systems. Another idea that I love from his book is walk slowly, but do not walk backwards. And this is just the idea that sometimes we feel like we need to be making progress all the time. And that if we're not making progress, we're not pushing hard enough. But then we push ourselves so hard that we burn out and we stop doing it and we walk backwards. Or we stop. But you need to keep going, even if it's just slowly. And there really are times in life when you need to maintain. Maybe that's because something is happening. I know, like, when I have a baby, I'm not progressing a lot in my life because I'm focusing everything I have on the baby, but I still have habits that I try and keep, like reading my scriptures and writing and reading aloud to the kids that I want to keep. I just don't have to do better in those areas. I just need to maintain. Keep doing what I was doing. Do the bare minimum so that I don't lose the habit. Or maybe it's just that you're not ready to move forward with your habit. Maybe you need to step back and say, okay, I don't need to progress as quickly as I think I do with running or with how many words I'm writing every day. Maybe I just need to do the bare minimum and walk slowly. Maintaining is always better than moving backwards. Doing a little bit is always better than doing nothing. And then one rule that I just had to mention from this section that I loved from the very first time I read the book was never miss twice. The idea behind that is just, if you miss doing your habit on one day, then the next day you do it. Even if it's hard to do it the next day. Missing once is a mistake. Missing twice is the start of a new habit. And because you want to really focus on maintaining the habits that you're creating, don't miss twice. And I love this. This is a really good rule for writing. If you want to write every day and you miss a day, say, it's okay. I'm not going to give up. I'm just not going to miss twice. I'm going to jump right back on. Another cool idea is the optimal zone of difficulty, or sometimes you would call this the Goldilocks rule. And this is one that I had never heard of before reading the book, but I think it's really important. It's just the idea that we need to be finding the right difficulty level for the things that we're attempting to do. Because if it's too easy, then we're going to get bored and we're going to quit. But if it's too hard, then we're going to burn out and we're going to quit. And both of those ends with you quitting. So you don't want that. But if you can find the just right difficulty, which is where Goldilocks comes in, it's just right, then you're challenging yourself and you're progressing, but you're not doing too much, so you're not going to burn out. And so then you'll be able to continue to progress and not feel bored, but feel really engaged. And that's the best place to flourish, is in the optimal zone of difficulty. Yeah, and basically I think that if you take any skill or whatever, you can kind of find that. Like, if for writing a book, for example, I wouldn't start with an epic fantasy. That's way too hard. Or even a trilogy or a series. I started with a single book, a standalone book, and I actually chose a retelling because I thought it would be easier to start. I'd have somewhere to start. You know, I didn't have to come up with everything, and it's been really good for me to start there. But as I progress, I might start doing things like series or adding other things, multiple points of view and different things, so that I can stay engaged and challenged, but not so much that it's too hard for me and that I end up quitting. The final thing I wanted to talk about is I just wanted to briefly cover the 4 things that make up a habit and how you can change habits, but he goes way more in depth in Atomic Habits, and I think it's worth the read just to get that information. So the 4 things that make up a habit are cue, craving, response, reward. You get a cue, which is like what triggers you to do your habit. The cue gives you your craving, then makes you want to do the habit. And then the response is you actually doing your habit, and then after you do your habit, you get a reward so that the next time you see your cue, you have that craving. So like you go to the store, you see a donut, that's your cue. Seeing it is your cue. Your craving is, oh wow, I want sugar. Then your response is you buy it and eat it, and then after you eat it, you get the rush of endorphins or whatever happens when you eat sugar. And so then the next time you see it, your body's gonna go, oh yeah, your brain's like, yeah, that felt good last time, let's do that again. So if you want to create a habit, you want to make it obvious so that you see it, so that you're cued into your habit. Make it attractive so that when you see it, your brain has that craving. Make it easy so that when you see it, you will actually do your response, and make it rewarding so that the next time you have that cue, your brain will go, yes, we liked that, let's do it again. So those are the 4 things, and you do the opposite if you want to stop a habit. You want to stop eating sugar, don't let yourself see it. Try and find ways to make it unattractive. Find ways to make it really hard for you to get your hands on sugar, and maybe give yourself I don't know what you would do if you don't want sugar with the reward. Give yourself a punishment if you eat sugar? I don't know. I'd have to look at the book again. But yeah, so those are the things that you do because of what a habit is made up of, basically. And he goes way more detail, and like I said before, he has lots of really good examples for it. Have you read Atomic Habits? If you have, let me know in the comments below what you thought of it. Even if you didn't like it, since I liked it so much, that's okay. We can still talk and be friends. I don't mind. And if you haven't read Atomic Habits, let me know what your favorite self-help book is. I would love to add it to my list of books to read if I haven't read it yet, or discuss it with you if I have. So yeah, don't forget to drop down to the comments and let me know that. And if you like this video, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe for lots of bookish and writing content. Thank you so much for watching my video. I will see you in the next one.